of you and less of me. Free me from these chains that are holding me. I want to be free from who I am. Lord, I want more of you. More of you and less of me. Free me from these chains that are holding me. I want to be free from who I am.
How can people discover their call? Let's talk to people who are in the church and active in ministry to find out how they got involved in ministry, how they discovered what God had called them to do, and what advice they could give to others who are young in the faith, or even those who have been a Christian for a while and still unsure as to what they can do in the kingdom.
I want to be free from who I am. I can't find no way.
Join us now as we talk with Spencer Anderson of the New Testament Church of God, Bishop of the Willesden District and local pastor of the Harrow branch. Bishop Anderson also serves on the National Executive Council of the church.
Have mercy on me. Teach me to be humble.
Bishop Anderson, how did you discover what God had called you to do?
I discovered that God had called me to be somebody in the kingdom. It started around about 1970 on a Christmas night when we went to a party, and most of the people there felt that my younger brother was able to dance better than myself, and my response to that was to make the statement that I can find somewhere else that I could dance better than him. Around about the same time in 1970, I went to church, and I believe it was one of those building programs that they had, and the preacher was preaching, and usually I never like to sit at the back of the church, so I'm always sitting right at the front. So I'm sitting at the front, and the preacher is preaching, and the preacher said, "Young man, God wants you." And my response to that was to look at the preacher and laugh at him. And eventually I got up, went to the altar, and gave my life to the Lord. And that was 1970. Leading on from that, I believe it was one of those cold March month when I got baptized in Crewe. And from then on, when I got saved, I wanted to be an evangelist. That's what I said I wanted to be. That was my first kind of thought, that I want to be an evangelist. However, that was not the case, because I believe God had different plans for my life. Hence, I believe it was about the latter part of 1972, coming up to 1973, when I went to my pastor, then Isaiah Campbell, and told him what I wanted to do, that I wanted to do further studies in theology, and I wanted to go to Germany. And he said, maybe I'm not ready for Germany just yet, but he could introduce me to the Ebenezer Bible Institute in Birmingham. Following from that, I came to Birmingham, and I believe that God wanted me to be in Birmingham, because I came to Birmingham and in one day I registered for Bible school, found somewhere to live, and found a job on the same day. And the story goes on.
More of you and less of me. Free me from these chains that are holding me. I want to be free from who
We moved to Handsworth, Birmingham. I was then asked to be the youth pastor for the Handsworth Church. Fortunately, I I was the first ever youth pastor in England and Wales. And I remember I was asked the question, because I was in pastoral work in Northampton, and I was asked the question, what are you doing now? And I said to the person that I am the youth pastor for Handsworth, and the response that I got was, that's foolishness. However, from that point in time, almost every church on a national level then appoint youth pastors. And so the story went on, and I spent 7 years with Bishop Webley in Handsworth. I did everything that he did. If he asked me to do a cremation, I would do a cremation, burial, marriage, everything that needed to be done in terms of pastoral work, I did. So I spent 7 years being developed, equipped, and being ready for whatever challenges that were ahead of us. In terms of being asked to be a pastor, you have to search yourself to find out, well, really, is this really my calling? And we weren't very sure. However, in September 1995, Bishop Williams was retired from the church in Highgate, and Dr. Ryan came to become our district pastor then. And Dr. Ryan, his statement to us was, to myself, was that I'm aware that you've been approached to go and pastor the church in Northampton. I will not stop you from going. I will not stand in the way. I believe it's the right thing for you to do. So, with all this soul searching that my wife had to do, because I believe at that time I don't know if I want to use the word convinced, but I felt assured within myself that this is what God wanted us to start out on this journey of pastoral work. I believe that the frightening thing for me in terms of going to pastor a church, I knew nothing. And when I said I knew nothing in terms of ordinances, doing any ordinances and stuff like that, I've never christened a baby, I've never do a funeral, I've never baptized anyone. I did no ministerial duties as such that would help me to do the pastoral work in Northampton. However, we packed our bags, left Highgate, December 1995, on a journey to Northampton, Standens Barnes. We were inducted in the December. Can't remember the exact date, but it was December 1995 that we were inducted in the church in Standens Barnes. And we traveled for 3 years to do this pastoral work in Northampton, which I worked full-time, plus doing the pastoral work in Northampton. So you can imagine that the question about being a pastor is not something that is quickly accepted by everyone. Anyone wants to be a pastor.
I can't find no way out of this circle. I need you to set me free so I can move forward in you. Lord, have mercy on me. Teach me to be humble. I'm nothing without you.
What advice would you give to those who are young in the faith or have been a Christian for a long time and still unsure as to what they can do in the kingdom of God?
My advice would be to be patient, because if God has called you to a particular ministry, God will always take you to it. Never run ahead of whoever is in leadership. Always wait. I believe that for me, because I exercise humility, which is important in waiting on God for what God has in store for you. If you exercise humility and patience, then God will come through for you. In terms of longevity, the length of time that you're in church waiting on God is not really an issue. It's about you knowing that God has called you to a particular ministry. And if God has called you to a particular ministry and you talk with your pastor, that's also an important aspect of, being in church a long time. I'm not doing anything. But you also need to get involved in whatever is going on. Because sometimes when you sit back and wait for the pastor to come and ask you to do certain things, you will stay there and you'll never discover what your real calling is. I believe also that the pastor can be a great instrument in helping any young person or anyone who's been in the church for a long time discover their calling. However, the pastor must have a vision for his people and know how to say, well, Michael, this is where I see God is leading you, which is what I do as a pastor. I always say to my people, you're not a preacher, you are a teacher. Therefore, it's important for the pastor to be a help in helping you to discover where you're called or where your calling lies. And the pastor must be able to feel free, don't feel threatened if the calling that you have on your life kind of outshine theirs, because it is a bonus when the pastor can help somebody to shine in the kingdom and discover their role within the kingdom in terms of ministry.
I'm nothing without you. Lord, will you rescue me? More of you, more of you.
What challenges did you have as a young Christian, and how did you overcome them?
As a young Christian, the challenges that I faced was to be part of the crowd. In order to overcome this particular area of challenge is to become a loner and just stick with those people who are more mature than myself. I've always leaned towards the more mature people in the church, because I felt that if I lean towards them, then I will be helped in terms of the challenges that I face. I think some of the challenges are like girlfriend, boyfriend issues and stuff like that. And bearing in mind that in the early 70s, a lot of these things were going on, this girlfriend and this boyfriend thing, and and also to consider the fact that if you were going out with somebody in the church, your intention must be very clear. So the challenge is this, is either you stay single, or if you have somebody who you feel that, well, I'm in love with this person and, I think they will make my, is that the moment that you announce that, that you've got limited time period. So those were some of the challenges for me. How do I overcome the challenges of girlfriend and boyfriend? I believe that I was mature enough to realize where God had wanted me to be in terms of whether I want to be married, single, or play about. I never had any intention of playing about, because the challenge was that I didn't want to backslide, to do anything like that in terms of backsliding. And overcoming that particular challenge, if it was ever a challenge, because when I met Carmen, for me, it was never a matter of, am I looking a wife, or am I, because we weren't. So the challenge was that I I'm not looking a wife, she's not looking a husband. So how do you overcome this? And I think the way of overcoming all those temptations was allow God to lead you. And I believe God directed us to, say, well, okay, Lord, this is where we're at in terms of this particular challenge. And the best way forward is to get married. And I think it's probably the best thing that we've done in terms of, our Christian walk, of the challenges that we face as young people then. And I can say, to God be the glory, 41 years later, we're still having challenges, but not the type that we had then. So the challenges have been great as a young person. However, I believe that because I had always have mature people around me, I was able to overcome those challenges by using their advice, their wisdom, and support.
The person you want me to be, I can't do this by myself. Lord, I need you to change my view.
What encouragement would you give to young Christians who feel they can't make it or live a committed, holy life for God in this day and age?
My encouragement would be that, first of all, one needs to understand what it is to be a Christian and also to be committed. When you understand, first, who you are, why do you want to be a Christian? Now, these are some of the questions that you've got to ask yourself. Do I want to be a Christian because my friends are becoming a Christian? Because my parents are forcing me to become a Christian? If you voluntarily accept Jesus Christ in your life, then the challenges that you will face won't be as difficult as if you're forced to do it. There are many things around in the world today, in your community, that will sort of pull you away from committing yourself to be a Christian. And I will never be foolish enough to think that there isn't anything out there to say, well, that is nicer than church, or perceived to be nicer than church. However, is that to be a Christian, it takes commitment. It's a lot of challenges, and the age range these days, 13 to 25, are running away from church. But I believe that the moment that you have, you've got a relationship with Christ and you know who Christ is, then the challenges become less. I would say that in order to really overcome some of these challenges as a young person, in this day and age, in this Christian life, is to seek advice from personnel who are older than you, who have been this way before, and how did you do it? And that way you will be able to overcome some of these challenges. It's difficult to be a Christian. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. The challenges are there, but I don't think it's difficult to be a Christian. If you truly want to be a Christian, you can become a Christian. It's that you just have to have the right mindset. You've got to focus your mind and say, well, you know what? Whatever my friends are doing, then I'm not going to be a part of it, because this is where I want to get to. And if you're focused, God will then take you to where He wants you to get to. I faced those challenges in my early Christian walk. And just to say that, I remember, I think it was around about 1972, I had a friend in church who ran with the crowd. They ran with the crowd and somehow fall out by the wayside. I went away 1 week, and within the week I went away. And when I came back, I understand that my friend was killed, he was buried, and that was in a week. So in saying that, is that if you run with the right crowd, which is the church crowd or the Jesus crowd, the possibility is that you will never face the challenges that you will face if you run with the wrong crowd. So my advice is, stick to what you know, stick to God, and He will see you through it all.
Thank you, Bishop Anderson.
Teach me to be humble.
Bishop, thank you for sharing your testimony with us.
Lord, will you rescue me? More of you, more of you.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you were blessed and encouraged as we heard what God has been doing in the lives of his people. If you want to talk to someone about the kind of issues raised in this program, then please visit our contact page at our website at harrownt.org.uk/contact.